And we're live. All right.
This is live. Okay.
Anytime you're ready.
We're ready to start? Or
Yeah.
I have a question to start with.
You have a question to start with.
This is a good one.
All right.
Which Bible character would be the absolute worst person to get stuck on an elevator with?
Absolute worst person to get stuck on the elevator with? Probably Elijah.
Why?
I figure like after he's been stuck out in the wilderness so long, he'd probably be really smelly and it's a tight area and everything. So
okay.
All right. What's your answer?
I don't have it. I don't know.
You never have an answer.
I asked the questions.
I know. All right. Well, welcome to Not for Sunday Mornings.
It is nice shirt.
Thanks. I got this from a friend today. He handed it to me. So
too. I forgot to wear mine.
You didn't want to look like me.
No, I didn't want to.
Yeah,
you can't wear your own merch on your show.
You can, because how else are you going to show it off? Like you're going to be like, hey, check this out.
Oh, Lordy.
All right, anyways, we're in our series, Questions Kids Ask, and we are looking at week 7, I think we're on this week.
8.
Is this a 9-week series?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right, so week 8. And our question is, what about hell?
What about hell?
It was a little more complex of a question than that, but
nuanced.
A little more nuanced, but it's a good question. I think you addressed early on that the comment of churches don't really talk about hell very often, and I mean you can understand why. Like it's not excusable, but it's understandable at a certain point. So I thought it was interesting. Like as you went through it, like I think the first thing that really stuck out to me was when you said who gets the final word on hell, and you mentioned like there's Oregon and Dante and C.S. Lewis.
Did you read Dante?
I have read Dante. The 9 layers of hell, abandon hope, all ye who enter. So I think I really, in all honesty, I think a lot of what we think of hell is formed from Dante. If I had to pick one voice that really formed it, I think it's Dante. It was interesting you mentioned C.S. Lewis. So I don't know, were you looking at like the Great Divorce or something like that? Yeah. So that's interesting because, and we'll probably get into this topic a little bit. A lot of people like to think it's about hell, but really Lewis, because he's Catholic, is actually writing about purgatory mostly. Yeah. So and maybe we can distinguish between some of those ideas as we go on a little bit. But what remind me, because I'm not familiar with what Oregon's that
it's ultimately purifying.
Okay,
so it removes all the evil, basically, like hell.
So almost like a purgatory type idea. Yeah. Okay, all right, that's interesting. I just wasn't familiar with this. Yeah. The idea that Jesus actually talks about hell quite a bit,
more than I realized.
How much did you think versus your realization once you dug in?
I knew he did a little bit. I didn't realize the depths and the amount in comparison to other writers or other speakers. It was more than I anticipated. So,
I mean, because it's almost like little lines and little blurbs. Yeah. It's not like dissertation on it, But
although he does Matthew 25, it's a big one where he separates the goat from the sheep, and that one almost was in the sermon. That got ripped out in the middle of the week, but like that idea, because he goes pretty intently on there. It's, at the words at the end, there are eternal destruction, and so there's debate of what that means. Like, is this forever? We'll get into that in a minute too. What does the punishment look like?
There's that nuance of what, and a lot of thoughts on it. Because again, I think we build a lot of our theology off of what Dante put, and so it's difficult to build that one. I like that you used the rich man Lazarus because at least he gives us a somewhat picture, but that question, I guess, or the is how much doctrine should we really build off of that? Is it a parable? I know you said like maybe we shouldn't lay everything down.
No, I think more of like the bigger picture of like there is a final place, and there is some kind of, at that point you can't change your mind, and so for me it's like what matters in this life matters in the next life, and so it's not like, because there was some debate like, well, once you die then you can make the decision to get better or whatever, and Jesus is pretty clear that once you die, it's over. And so I think that for me, that's the bigger picture takeaway from that are those points of it. Not so much what it looks like and all that. I don't think that really was important to Jesus, but.
Yeah, I can see that. I also really liked what you said. There were a couple lines that not blend together, but guide us in the same direction. So like your line judgment exists because something has gone terribly wrong. I think a lot of people, I think Christians and mostly non-Christians, but I think Christians alike, not all of them, but a lot of them, when they don't like the idea of hell, and so they would much rather ignore it or say it doesn't exist because of that. But realizing that something has gone wrong and that, and I think that's one of the stronger arguments of that. I think you went through that really well. I liked how you challenged that. You asked, like, can God actually be loving if he never judged? We kind of talked about that when I preached a little bit too, but it's a true statement. Like, and it's another one that's hard for us to grasp or want to come to terms with. But there's a reality to that. And I always go back to the loving parent. Like, if you don't ever discipline your child, are you really loving your child? At that point. And if we think of ourselves as God's children, there has, and because we're God's creation, like, we have to really, really look at that. Yeah. And I think my favorite line was, God takes our choices more seriously than we do.
Wasn't that a great line?
That was a great line.
But it's true though.
It is. Yeah.
Like, I think we just like have half-heartedly like, oh, whatever. But like, if that's our choice, he'll honor that choice. I think it breaks his heart. I don't think it's something he wants. And I think he has proven again and again. That was the other thing. Like, what more could he do? I didn't get to say that, but like, he's done everything to try to keep us out of hell.
Everything.
Like, what more could he do? I mean,
even if you go back to basic, like what Paul talks about, like, there's always been revelation, like, and so if you choose to ignore that, and not follow the right way. But no, I thought overall it was good. Like, I
really wish we do one of these and you would tell me it was terrible and you suck.
Okay.
That makes it a lot more.
You want me to start over with this one? This one is horrible.
Great.
Like, I hated every second. No,
that was fun. It was a fun conversation. It was a challenge. I love being up for the challenge. I like stepping into things that we don't talk about and really explore why we don't talk about things. And so that for me is interesting. The whole beginning, that was kind of at this morning type of thing, because I had a whole different opening, and then I thought I really want to connect with the folks, and so I did this thing where I had people think of somebody like in their head.
Yes.
And it reminded me of my grandma. I know my grandma thought of me, and so trying to, again, I think when you personalize it, it makes it a lot more difficult. It can't be as cold, because some folks are just like, well, that's hell, and that's what it is, and they're just jerks about it. Yep. But when you see that as your mother, your brother, your sister, your whatever, all of a sudden now there's like a human element to it, like, oh, this is a real thing. And so what do I do with this? And I wanted people to feel that tension. So that was kind of a fun little hook to get me in.
Well, I thought when you presented that, and I was thinking about that, the Penn Jillette story comes to mind. Yep. So Penn Jillette's a magician, illusionist that is a well-known atheist, and so after one show, a guy comes up to him and looks to see him after the show and asks to give him, and it says, hands him a Bible, and he's like, I want you to have this. I want you to know that I really care about you. I pray for you, and my card's in there if you ever want to call me or anything like that. And so Penn gets on his little podcast, whatever he was doing at the time, and talks about it, and from a man who's an atheist and a man, and he's very smart, he's an intellectual person, and he said this, it really moved him, because he challenged, I think, if people go and watch it, he challenged Christians. He's like, how much do you have to hate somebody to not share the word of Christ to them? Because he said, if you really believe that someone's going to go to hell because they don't believe in Christ, like, where are you at on that? And so, so it's hard, but yeah. So what'd you leave out?
Left out a lot. So a couple of the things that, like, what even is hell? I didn't spend a lot of time trying to describe hell. So there are some words that the Bible uses when we talk about hell. So one of those, I thought we could just spend a couple moments looking at those. So like Sheol, I can't pronounce that right.
Sheol.
Yeah, that's the Hebrew. That's in the Old Testament. That's like the realm of the dead or the grave.
It's kind of ambiguous. Like it's underground is the best way of describing it.
It's very much like Hades. Yeah. And that's the Greek
version of Sheol.
Yeah, basically that. So it's like this holding place of, again, as people await judgment and await all that. Gehenna, so that's a word.
Gehenna, yep.
That Jesus frequently uses, and is connected to the valley of Hinron. There's a belief that it was a garbage dump and it burned all the time.
Yeah.
But that actually came much later after the fact that people started making that connection. That wasn't believed exactly what Jesus was saying. Now, there was a thought of, like, in the Old Testament, that valley meant bad things, because bad things happened in that valley. So there was a lot tied into that.
Right, like the lepers would hang out there.
And the way the people moved. So there's a lot of underlining image there. Yep. But to put it to be like he's referencing a garbage dump, that's not...
A flaming garbage dump.
That's not exactly what...
Right, correct.
And then the lake of fire, and that's in Revelation 20. And so when someone says, well, the Bible says hell is, I'm always like, well, let's slow down and talk about what word are you talking about, what passage, what kind of literature, what is the author trying to communicate. I thought it'd be fun to ask you, when you growing up, what was a picture you had when somebody said hell?
Well, I think a place of fire, like, I know you said, what's brimstone? If I remember, I think brimstone's sulfur is an old term for sulfur. Yeah. So, like, I think that picture of almost a cartoony picture, right? Where you have little imps and demons with pitchforks and fire. Yeah. Everything that Dante wrote about, has shaped, I think, a lot of all of our visions, Christian and non-Christian alike, of what it is. And so, I think lake of fire is a description, but not knowing how that would actually look. So just a place of burning and torment and whatnot. So, because I always remember, like, growing up, like, that's the thing. It's like, well, if you don't accept Christ, then you go to hell. And it's like, and that's a rough way of saying it. It's true, but it's, it's kind of a jerky way of saying that.
I think a better way to say it is if you reject Christ.
Right.
Like, because you're making a conscious choice, and there's a consequence for that choice.
Yeah. And when you were talking about that, like, I always try to explain to people, like, when people who complain about, well, how can a loving God do this, right? And my answer is always like, well, but why would you want to spend eternity with somebody that you didn't want to spend any time with prior to that? Like, it is a conscious choice. Like, you're choosing, like, I don't want to be anything. I don't want to have anything to do with this guy. I don't want anything to do with God or Jesus. And so why would you all of a sudden want eternity with them and to go from there? And
I tease the guys I golf with how we got to enjoy life now because I won't see them later.
That's good.
So one of the things I did to dig on a little bit was the rich man Lazarus story. Okay. And the thing what stood out was the rich man never actually repents. He wants relief. He wants water. He wants his brothers warned, but he never actually says, I was wrong. He never asked Lazarus for forgiveness. In fact, he doesn't even speak directly to Lazarus. He asked Abraham to send Lazarus. And so I wonder what that might tell us.
Yeah, I think it's a place of unrepentance. I can't remember if it's in Peter or whatnot. Like, so if you read the Apostles' Creed, depending on which version of it you read, there's a line in there about Jesus going to hell and when he died, and it comes from, like, I want to say it's like 1st or 2nd Peter, where he writes a line about him going to hell to preach the gospel to all that had died before him. And I think I don't know if it's misunderstood or if it's just not understood, what that really means. Like, one of those lines in the Bible, like, we don't really know what that means. And so we just kind of don't touch it very often as a thing. But part of that line is nobody accepted anything that he said. Like, he didn't come out of hell with anybody with him. And so I think it's a conscious choice. I think, again, like you said, it's a choice. It's a choice of myself over God at that point.
Yeah. So then the other thing I didn't leave out, this is the last thing really, I don't know if you got a bunch, but is talking about the exact nature of final judgment, like what happens after final judgment. So there's a few different thoughts, and one of them, so first one is eternal conscious torment. And this is like the traditional view where you'll be suffering the rest forever. You're always going to be suffering.
So people who go to hell, you mean?
Yeah, people go to hell. They're judged. They're judged, and their punishment is they're eternally tormented forever. That's what the traditional view.
I've heard that view. Yep.
Another view is
annihilation.
Yeah, I can't pronounce that.
That's word. Okay.
But that means
you just preached, so we'll give you that much at least.
Yeah, that means like they judged and then they're killed. And that's it. It's over.
Yeah, they cease to exist. Soul over. No longer exists. Everything they're totally destroyed.
Yeah. And then the view number 3 is ultimate or universal reconciliation. Eventually everyone will be reconciled to God. And so that is like everybody at the end will have a chance to make it right. They'll stand before God and say, I was wrong, you're right, and everything will be all good. Again, I would love that to be the case, but Scripture does not.
It doesn't really support that.
It doesn't at all.
No.
It doesn't at all. And the places where you can kind of make some verses dance do not hold up under scrutiny. And so that I don't believe that.
Yeah, I struggle with that third one. I mean, the first two, like, I think it's a nuanced description. Like, I think it's difficult to say one way or the other. It's trying to peek behind the veil, and we just don't have an answer. And is it a place of eternal torment? Which and even that can be debated. What does that actually look like too? Right? Because even though we live here on earth and we're sinful, God's still present for everyone. Yeah. Right. Sinners and Christians and non-Christians and He's there. And so that view of eternal torment sometimes, like we can go the Dante view, right? Yeah. Where we're burning and whatever that looks like, and the 7 layers or 9 layers, but some views of that is actually it's a cessation of God's presence. Yeah, yeah. And that is eternal torment. Yeah. And so we don't know what that's like, and I can only imagine how horrible that would be. Yeah, that's I think the whole big takeaway. This is a place you don't want to be. Right. And so what do you do to, what do you do in response to that? So that's kind of where I was at. Okay. Getting the pushback. I mean, I got some quick fire questions. Do you want to cover purgatory a little bit or have a conversation on it? Do you have any thoughts on it? Yeah, I definitely believe there is a holding place between here and the end. Whether before we get to heaven, before we get to hell, whatever those look like, I believe there is some kind of holding place. Now, purgatory is different in that you can change. In purgatory, you can change what direction you're going. And that I don't believe. But I believe, it's hard for me not to believe that there is some sort of intermediate place. Now, again, I think the way we understand time is it's probably going to be like a second. We're not even going to know it. Like it's going to be so quick. But there is some type of holding place. I mean, Paul talks about being in Christ, and there's this holding place before he returns. There's he talks about that. I mean, even when you read Revelation, right, and there's this description of the throne room, right, and the elders and the saints and all of them, right, and the prayers of the saints. And so there's something going on at that point, right? Just to kind of like nuance purgatory a little bit. My understanding is if the people who are going to hell are still going to hell. They don't wind up in purgatory. Purgatory is more of you were a Christian, but you weren't a great Christian. And so we're going to make you a better Christian. Okay. And so we're going to refine you a little bit more and give you the opportunity to improve and become more Christ-like at that point. Yeah, and that's silly. That's silly because Paul talks about that almost, where's that in Ephesians and Colossians, where he talks about that being like you can't baptize people after they're dead. Yeah. I think that's in Colossians. Yeah, what are you doing? Talks about what do we do? That's silly. Like that's once you're dead, it's over. So I think that's the reality of it, the stark reality of it. And what do we do with this life now? You know. Yeah. So that's where I'm at. No, 100%. All right, pushbacks. Okay, so you don't. I'm going to be very simplistic in what I said, but you said people choose hell, right? And you're really not reducing the sermon to that phrase, but it's more of human freedom argument is where you're going from, right? Yeah. So I guess where my question is, if you ask somebody who rejects Jesus, would you like eternal separation, judgment, destruction? They're going to say no, right? I don't know. They might say they don't even know what they're saying no to, probably, right? I don't know. Yeah. So I guess the question is, aren't they choosing something else without necessarily believing hell is the consequence? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess part of it is they have a clear understanding of what they're saying yes and no to, and I think that the Spirit can speak to people in many different ways, and
So having clarity of like, if I say no to this, do we really understand the full depths of saying no? I think if we did, we wouldn't ever, right? But I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know either. Like it's one of those things. Like this is hard because then that kind of gets in my next pushback a little bit on the idea of, does love require libertarian free will? So if heaven contains people who eternally love God and never reject him, and genuine love can coexist with an inability of rebellion, why wouldn't God create us that way initially? So in other words, why wouldn't God just create us so that we love him?
I mean, we're not robots.
Right.
That's not really love. That's not real love. It's all you know and all you're programmed to do. You don't have a choice in that matter. I think love requires a choice, right? If I make a robot and the robot has to serve me and love me, does a robot really love me? No, right? He has to. It reminds me, there's a story we told about the king and the fair maiden, right? And like he falls in love with this fair maiden and he can overwhelm her with her power, but he shows up with the chariot and everything, and then she's just shook by all that. Now is she really choosing to love him? And he can give her everything in the world, but he'll never know if he ever has her heart. You know what I mean? Like part of it is like we have a choice in this to love God back, and that's I think where real love is. It's not forced. It's not manipulated. It's you have a choice to love him or not. You know. Like when I stood up there this week and I said I love Jesus, that really was impactful for me more than I realized. Even in my practice, it was like, man, I can stand there and say that I love Jesus. You know? I trust him. Like it was a pretty deep, simple statement, but for me, it really moved me personally.
Do you feel that your Isaiah line, Isaiah 55, 8 through 9, right? My thoughts are not your thoughts, my way, neither are my ways your ways. Does that ever become or does it have the potential to become a theological escape hatch? Like when we just don't want to answer a question or when we feel uncomfortably challenged by something, we can just simply say, well, it's God's way. God's thoughts are his thoughts. God's way is his way.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I definitely think it could be like an excuse, like I don't want to do the work. But also at the same time, like if I'm doing the work, I'm going to come up against that at some point and have to rest in that fact. Like, yeah, you could take it lazy route and be like, oh, I'll just never understand anything, but I don't have to care. But that's, I guess, sure. But for the people that really are seeking and searching and are digging, you're going to have to come to that's not a concern. It's the concern of actually submitting to that and realizing, okay, I have to be okay with not knowing.
Yeah, I think, and that's where I was hoping you would go with that because people can just say, well, I don't need to know anything because of that. But I think that's wrong.
Yeah.
Wrong to do that. Yeah, I think that's all I have for pushback, really.
Good. All right, quick fire.
It's
a quick episode.
This is a quick episode. We went along the last couple ones a little bit. All right, so what do you got?
Okay, heaven or hell. Which one do you think churches misunderstand more?
Heaven.
Okay.
Are there degrees of judgment?
Yeah, I don't have time to get into that.
Yeah, that probably should have been.
That's not a quick fire question.
Well, you could just simply say yes or no, and then we just leave it at that, and people will wonder forever.
Oh, yes, but it's confused. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's confusing.
Okay, that sounds like the right answer.
Mm-hmm. Fire or darkness? Which image is more unsettling to you?
Darkness. Did the fear of hell play a role in your conversion? Your acceptance of Christ? Yeah,
I think so. At that age, I think that was obviously, they pushed that pretty high. I think we watched Hell's Gates, Heaven's Fury or something like that. Heaven's Gates.
I've heard something like that. I've never seen it, but yeah.
Propaganda stuff that pushed, again, a lot of it was like scaring the hell out of you.
Literally.
And I think literally, and I think, again, that's the tension I feel, because we make fun of that, but then like, man, you read Jesus's words and there is some moments of like, hey, I think
it's hard for us because the era we grew up in, it was like everything. It like, and it was to the point where it's like, it almost felt like they missed the message of love there. Like it's not, you're right. We need to take it seriously, but but I think we grew up in an era where it was just so heavy handed and that, I think that for right or wrong, it pushed us in the opposite direction. And it's that pendulum type idea, right?
Like pendulette.
Because you go back to like, what's his name? Jonathan Edwards and Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God, right?
I almost quoted him today. I had part of that.
I'm surprised you didn't, actually. I've always wanted.
I was going to begin by that, pounding on the table.
But he didn't do that. That's the funny part.
Well, there's another guy that did, though. I have a quote from another guy that's a little more intense.
So if you've never read the sermon Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God, definitely it's worth the read. And you read it, you feel like it's that fire and brimstone, like pounding on the pulpit, yelling. And when Jonathan Edwards was a Puritan early 1700s, mid 1700s in America, it didn't preach it that way according to records. Like it was very calm, very even keeled discussion of it, and so I think it's doable.
Like the way I speak.
Yeah, exactly how you speak. Yep.
I am calm and even keel.
You get passionate sometimes.
Wake people up. I got one last question, but I don't know where you're at.
Go for yours, and we'll see where I'm at.
Finish the sentence. If I really believed hell was real, I would ...
I mean, I do believe hell is real. It makes me pray for people that aren't believers that I love harder. I think sometimes it's hard to focus on the negatives of things, right? And hell's a negative, right? And so we ignore it, or we push it to the side. And so I think Penn had it right when he said, if you truly believe in hell, how much do you have to hate someone to not tell them? Not tell them about it. Yeah. But yeah, so have you ever avoided teaching something because you didn't want to deal with it?
Yeah.
Anything in particular?
Yeah.
Do you want to share? You don't want to deal with it? Is that why?
So hot topic. So abortion, homosexuality. I'm not avoiding these things. So my thing is, I think anytime we highlight one sin over the other, we're missing the point. And so actually was kind of the heart of today's message this was going to be a discussion on certain sins. And and I thought, well, let's just talk about hell, because let's not get to delineate, well, this sin or that sin or rate these sins. That's stupid. And so to say that I avoid talking about those things, I think I try to strategically be wise in what I speak about. But I'm sure there's things I don't because I don't want to, or I hope that's not the case, but I'm sure there's.
No, I understand the
I try to preach the whole counsel of God. And so I try my best to, within like a 5-year span, have taught the Bible, and so strategically focusing on certain things. And you try to do it so that the body gets a full view of that. I don't always do well, and I do go back to the topics that I like to talk about more than others. And so, but yeah.
Okay, this might not be quick fire, but does Satan rule hell?
I don't know.
Do demons?
Does it matter?
Do demons torture people in hell?
I don't know.
Okay, I
don't know.
That's fine. That's fair. Are all sins equal?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I think the consequences are different, but all sins are equal.
Okay.
And in eye of God, yeah.
Would Christianity be easier if hell wasn't real?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't know. I think that it just wouldn't be meaningful, right? I mean, there has to be a consequence. For love to be love, it has to have that other side of it, right? And so I think, yeah.
No, I agree. All right. That's what I got.
That was it. That was our last podcast.
No, it's not.
Last one for me and you.
Well, last one for me and you. Okay.
I'm out of here.
So we got Steve's going on vacation. Yep. We will not have a podcast for you next week, but we will bring it to you the week after.
For a guest speaker, a guest podcast host.
Guest podcast host that will be working with me that week.
That'll get 3 views.
Yeah, well, we'll see how it goes. So I am preaching next week.
Yeah.
Our preview is the topic when we sat down and wrote this, and I've stuck with it, is creation ?
Yes.
This has been a rough one to write. Like,
oh, come on.
No, it has been. This is a personal topic for me, and so it's hard
not
to
rough.
not.
It's easy.
In your eyes, that's why you're not preaching it.
I took hell.
You did take hell.
And last week, hypocrites. And what? Oh,
hypocrites.
Come on.
That's
I took
an easy
heavy
one.
stuff.
Yeah.
Creation.
Creation.
It's right there. It's in a poem.
It is.
Easy breezy.
We'll do good, but we'll have a guest host, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
He's a little nervous, so be kind to him. Send good reviews in.
Yep. And keep sending in your questions.
Yeah. Did you get any or no?
Nope.
All right. Questions. Well, that's fair. I think our 3 people have already asked their questions.
People have to watch it to send questions. So. All right. Well, this has been a blast, and I'm glad we got to do it this year.
Yep.
And I'm glad it's over.
Yeah. Sorry, it won't be the last one.
Maybe.
But
we'll see.
We'll go from there. All right. Well, thanks. Smash and review for whatever reason.
Don't do any of that.
We like to hear from you. So write your encouraging notes to Steve. Tell him how awesome he is.
Yep. I need to hear those.
Because he needs it.
And tell me how terrible Chris is because he needs to hear that. He doesn't care.
I don't care.
I wish I could be like that.
I already told our guest host, I'm like, listen, you can say whatever you want about me. I'm like, I'll roll off my back.
That's awesome.
So, all right. Well, thanks for watching and
keep asking good questions.
There you go. I almost stole your line.
You should have.